So the Chicago Bears have just been newly linked to a leading head coaching candidate. And if you believe the reports, he is now the leader in the clubhouse here. So the Chicago Bears, you guys know, in the market for a new head coach. These last two performances probably disqualified Thomas Brown from being in the running to be the head coach. So the guy that I'm talking about being the leading candidate right now, that's Mike Vrabel. And Albert Breer, he just said on ESPN 1000 that he's the likely choice at head coach. So, and a question regarding Vrabel. How patient are the Bears willing to be in this search? Are the Bears willing to wait until teams are in the playoffs and request permission to interview candidates? We're going to see. But let's be clear before I go further. This is what Breer thinks will happen. Let's dig into this a little bit. And also, I want to be a little impartial here. I just want to hash this through. So let's look at this. I'll go to Bleacher Report here. And let's look into who Mike Vrabel is as a coach. And also, perhaps the most important thing in this scenario, he's a defensive-minded coach. So I want to know in this process, who would be the offensive coordinator? I'm going to get into that as well. Unbelievably important in this aspect. Kind of look at his background. He does have some relationships with Halas Hall, most notably GM Ryan Poles. They worked together for quite a while in Kansas City back in the day. And then there's this phrase. I find it a little irritating. I'm going to say it anyways. The Bears say publicly they're looking for and I quote, leader of men for their next head coach. If that's the main factor, then Mike Vrabel fits that in a way few others would implicitly, but also, I mean, we got to fix this offense, and I would much rather that the Bears are looking for someone that's, I quote, a winner. And this is hearing directly from Breer. Mike is a Midwest guy, and he has a great appreciation for the game. I think the idea of being a head coach of the Bears would appeal to him. You got a quarterback there. To get a guy like that, you would just have to be really flexible in the way that you are structured. And I agree as far as Albert Breer's look on this. I'm going to get into that. I can't help it, though. Personally, right now, I don't love this hire. We've done a ton of defensive-minded coaches in the past. We can't score in the first half of a football game. Team loaded with weapons. Sure, the offensive line needs help, but we can't score in one half of football to start games. I feel like I'd prefer a guy who can definitely get this offense in order. The other leaders so far in that realm, we're looking at offensive coordinator Joe Brady, as you know, from the Buffalo Bills, and also Johnson from the Lions. So kind of looking at Vrabel. He's currently a coaching and personnel consultant for the Browns and previously head coach for the Tennessee Titans from 18 to 2023. And I just kind of want to concentrate on that. He's been a defensive coach his whole career previous to the Titans stint. His record with them was 54-45. So let's look at that specifically. Brought the Titans to the playoffs 3 times, really gave the team a jolt when he took over in 2018. He immediately went 9-7, missed the playoffs by a whisker, but the following year, they made the playoffs as a wild card, appeared in the AFC Championship game behind the running of Derrick Henry. I'll be honest about that. And they lost to the Chiefs. Nothing to be ashamed of there. That doesn't diminish that run. They would eventually be world champions. Vrabel gets coach of the year. Then we're looking at what happened after that. Tennessee, they sustained winning. They won the division 2 seasons in a row, 2 pretty nice records, 11-5, followed by 12-5. And then it just kind of fell off. 7-10, followed by 6-11. Vrabel got fired after that. And kind of looking at during that period of time, to be fair here, the Titans did some weird stuff during those seasons, especially trading A.J. Brown before the 2022 season. That's ridiculous. The offense never recovered from that. And there was a report by Diana Rossini from The Athletic at the time, talking about kind of what was behind his firing. And it was due to some power struggles. Vrabel wanted control of roster construction. GM Carthon was brought on. He wanted to build the roster more based on analytics, and it just got kind of weird. And you're looking at them starting at 7-3 in 2022. Then the wheels fell off. They had a 7-game losing streak. It was highlighted by a final week loss to the Jaguars, missing the playoffs. That season also had Ryan Tannehill getting hurt, to be fair. He missed 5 games at quarterback. This kind of looks like this year's Lions. 23 players on injured reserve that year. Just a hard season. Then the slide continued in 2023. He got fired. This is a guy that gets rave reviews from his time in Cleveland so far. The positive with him, there's a lot of positive here. He has won as a head coach. He definitely can command a locker room. He's a no-nonsense leader kind of guy. He's shown that he maximizes talent. The players have loved him. He brought the Titans to the playoffs 3 times, 2 division titles. We can go this route, right? The defense will play great again. We can continue our Monsters of the Midway tradition. But are we so sure that this is going to fit unless his insistence on roster control that caused friction with the Titans, if that's not loosened a little bit, it might not work. And it's not known if a Belichick-like power grab, if that's something that he's interested in. But I will say this. When you're willing as an organization to trade an absolute stud like A.J. Brown, when you're close to contending for a championship, and then you expect your team not to miss a beat, maybe your judgment is off there. Maybe that was partially why Vrabel reacted to that silly move. The issue is as well, who would be offensive coordinator in this scenario? Now, Albert Breer, he seems to think his choice would be either Josh McDaniels or Tommy Rees. If that's the case with Josh McDaniels, Rees is really unproven. If that's the case with Josh McDaniels, no thank you. Just the thought of McDaniels, him entering the building at Hallis Hall, even to visit, kind of gives me a seizure. No thanks with McDaniels. If we look at his staff at Tennessee, maybe that's a better barometer instead of Breer guessing. He hit a home run with Matt LaFleur on his staff. Say no more. He was on his staff at Tennessee. Arthur Smith. He's put together a good run as head coach of the Steelers this year. A lot of the quality of a head coach can be reckoned by, does he produce quality coaches off of his staff? So he went 2 for 2 with those 2 guys. I think we can agree with that. But he also had a couple whiffs, a couple underwhelming choices at best at offensive coordinator. We're talking Tim Kelly and Todd Downing. Good coaches, but they never really materialized into being great. But he brought them into town as their offensive coordinator. I'm willing to listen to this, but the interview needs to be who is coming in at offensive coordinator. That's got to be the major part of the interview. And if that's the major part of the interview, who are you bringing in at offensive coordinator? Shouldn't you just be hiring an offensive coach? I mean, the problem with a defensive-minded coach with success, offensive coordinators, they leave, they go elsewhere, just constant turnover if you're good. The head coach has got to be really special to sustain that. Somebody like McVay, someone like Dan Campbell looks special that he could sustain that. But I don't know if Vrabel's that type of guy. And if you're looking at Johnson from the Lions, if he's the offensive mind that he appears to be, I think it might be a better choice right now. I mean, I'm not sold on either way at this point. I just hope the Bears are patient. I hope they take their time. And I hope they kind of narrow their search a little bit and concentrate on maybe just these 3 guys, Brady, Johnson, and if you want to go defensive coach, go Vrabel, maybe even pluck Flores from Minnesota if you really want to go defensive. But I think it's really Brady or Johnson. In my book, you run the risk of being an unproven head coach. I get that. But we've kind of already seen what we get from Vrabel. I think he could command the locker room. I'm just really nervous who he would bring in at offensive coordinator, and being a defensive-minded coach, that the decision really hinges on that. And if you're so worried about who he's going to bring in at OC, maybe you're choosing the wrong coach. I don't know, you guys. You guys are going to freely share what you think on this message board. I have no doubt of that. I just wanted to raise this discussion and show you kind of where I'm at right now. Hopefully this is a patient process and we have plenty of time to hash it out. Bear down, you guys, and we'll talk soon. See ya.